witnesses being here, and I can tell Mr. Salazar that you're under a lot of pressure. You look tired. And thank you for being here.
I don't feel tired. I feel confident, and I feel resolute in what we're doing.
Great. As Secretary of the Interior, you're in charge of the MMS, which oversees the activities in the Gulf of Mexico. And I watched 60 Minutes on Sunday, and there were 3 people that talked. Mike Williams, who Transcom's Chief Electronics Technician on Deepwater Horizon, Professor Mike McBee of the UC Berkeley, and Ken Abbott, a former engineer at BP. And in the interview, Mr. Williams, who worked for Transcom, describes 3 possible technological failures that occurred leading up to the disaster. Damage to the rubber gasket, called an annular, at the mouth of the blowout preventer, a device on the ocean floor that is supposed to prevent an uncontrolled surge of pressure reaching the oil rig, a hydraulic leak, and an unreliable control pod that may have prevented the emergency disconnect from kicking in that should have severed the pipe leading from the blowout valve to the oil rig. He also described a chain of command problem where he claims that they were pressured by BP to move forward with it. Professor B of Berkeley, I think you made reference to this. He did Katrina, he did the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster. He argued the damage to the annular was of significant concern and that it prevented rig operators from correctly gauging the amount of pressure that had built up inside the well. He stated that standard operating procedure, when control pods fails, it should be immediately replaced. And then Mr. Abbott, he worked for BP, managed the engineering drawings for BP. He claims that 89% of engineering drawings had not been inspected or approved by BP engineers, and that 95% of the welding plans have never been approved. And this is supposedly backed up by BP internal mails. The question I have is, what kind of regulation does MMS have? I've worked for 10 years on the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and we've got it now. We had the Davis-Besse problem, and we've you know, unbelievable changes. But they take 3 years to go through to look at all of the stuff that's necessary in terms of building a new nuclear reactor, a new facility. And the question is, what kind of inspection do you have? How many people from your shop were on the rig? How many of your people oversee the plans to make sure that they're complied with? I cannot believe that with this kind of a rig, you know, we had 3 Mile Island, cost $1 billion to fix it. We didn't lose 11 people. We lost 11 people on this rig. And only God knows what the ecological damage is going to be here. And quite frankly, it could be a lot more than any 3 Mile Island problem. And I think that this is significant. You know, there are people out there, you know, environmental groups now that say, we got to stop doing this. Well, the fact of the matter is we've got to continue to do this. But the issue is, how do you do the job? And from my point of view, the agency did not do the job. You know, how many people do you have working for the agency? What are their competencies? How many did you have a year ago or 2 years ago? And then there's another one that they talked about, I think the Atlantis, that one of the witnesses or one of the people said that that's a disaster ready to occur. So I'm just wondering, what the devil does MMS do? And ought not we look at maybe the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to look at the kind of approval that needs to be made in terms of the gizmos that they use? They have to approve that. The design of the facility, the safety things that are in place, and so on.
Senator Voinovich, we will make sure that the United States of America, including this Congress and the agencies in the executive branch, learn every lesson to be learned from this incident. That I can promise you. I did not watch the 60-minute episode that you referred to, but the fact of the matter is that I do know that there are 1,000 different stories out there about what happened and what the facts were. We will learn the truth. The Presidential Commission, along with the other investigations that are underway, will be able to pinpoint.
Listen,
they'll be able.
Our problem always around here is something happens and we spend all our time going back over it rather than saying, here we are today, and what do we need to go forward? We had Davis-Besse. It was a problem. They changed the whole operation in terms of inspection, in terms of the people that were on at the facilities. The NRC changed the way they did things. Businesses changed things. What I want to know is, what kind of an organization are we going to put together so this kind of thing doesn't happen, and we can assure the public that if we do another one of these, which I think we need to do, is not going to, the same thing's not going to happen again?
The answer to that, Senator Voinovich, is that it will happen, and it's going to happen through two ways. First, we are taking action within the executive branch to make sure that this problem never occurs again. And secondly, this Congress needs to take some action to support some of the efforts that we will be undertaking to make sure that this incident doesn't happen again. But here,
for example, did you have anybody on the rig? Was anybody from MS on the rig?
No one was on the rig that day of the explosion, okay? But the facts are that whether it's 60 Minutes or any other anecdotes or comments or stories that you're hearing here, is there's a lot more to this investigation, much of which is yet to be uncovered.
Okay, but why wasn't somebody from MS on that rig 24 hours a day, overseeing what they were doing to make sure that they were doing this according to what they were supposed to be doing? Why didn't you have somebody on there?
Senator Voinovich, we have, as I recall, 62 inspectors in the Outer Continental Shelf. We have overseen and have had over 36,000 wells alone that have been drilled in the Gulf of Mexico. There is a significant and robust enforcement and inspection mechanism. The question, I think, is an appropriate one relative to, can it be done better? The answer to that is yes. And how we do that, we will be doing our own reorganization, much of which we have been working on very hard since I became Secretary of Interior, but there will be more to do. The proposal that is in front of you asks for additional inspectors so that the job can be enhanced. The budget, which is before you for 2011, did the same thing a long time ago. Safety measures that were supposed to be enhanced have been proposed multiple times over the years. Some of them have been adopted. The National Academy of Engineers, which is the equivalent of the National Academy of Sciences, we brought them on in September of last year to put forward for us what were the safety measures so they were not industry-driven.
Because I'm running out of time. I would suggest to you that you or somebody in your shop get together with the NRC to find out how they go about doing their work and the kind of regime that they have in place to see how much of that kind of thing is relevant to what you are doing. Second of all, we have another example of where we've asked an agency to do a job, you know, having the right people with the right knowledge and skills at the right place at the right time, and we haven't given you the wherewithal for you to do your job. And you're going to be asking for more people. But the fact is that too often what we do around here, at least in the same thing in your shop, you know, how many people do you need to get the job done? And so I'm saying I think those things will do more to give the public comfort than to go back and spend, and I mean, we ought to hold these people responsible, we ought to fine them or whatever is, you know, should be done. But the real issue is, how do we go forward? And if we don't go forward the right way, we're going to have another situation like we had with 3 Mile Island, where nothing got done in the nuclear area and the rest of the world took the leadership in this area and we lost out. And I think we need to go forward, but we can't go forward, I think, unless you have a new protocol and you've got the people that you need. 24 hours a day I'd have somebody on that thing, or 2 people to get the job done.
If I may, Senator Voinovich, first, you will have a report to the President by the end of the month, which will set out some interim measures, and there will be a lot more coming from that. 2, we are not afraid of science, and we're not afraid of the best technology. And so Marcia McNutt, who's the head of USGS, who's one of the best scientists in the world, along with Stephen Chu and the Energy Labs, are helping us in terms of dealing with the immediate problem in the Gulf. but I also have asked them to help us in terms of dealing with